talk is about me. There's zero judgment here. I don't have a huge investment in what you do with yourself, but I have a huge investment in what I do with myself. So I said, what idea could I present to you that would change your life in the way my life has been changed? So I'm going to give you 10 ideas to straighten up your practice. See what I did there?
Yeah, we're going.
So I'm going to do the 10 things. These are the 10 things that I've done over the past 4 years that I still do every day that I'm working on in some capacity or another. The first of which is to start thinking. We are in a knowledge-thirsty environment. Everybody with a free minute, they're texting, they're on Facebook, they're sucking in energy, information, reading blogs, all that stuff. But no one thinks about stuff anymore. Imagine being Joe D, sitting up into the wee hours of the morning hearing Reggie talk, and then you leave, and like there's nowhere, you can't type it to someone, you can't tell anyone. I mean, maybe you could call someone on the phone or go meet your friend for lunch the next day, but you had to swim that, let that stuff marinate and swim around your head. To me, that's a much more powerful thing. I think there's so many distractions that I just don't think we think enough. I mean, look at how these chairs, we're all set up in, why are these chairs set up in perfect rows and this linear system? Because we were all raised in an industrial education model, right? We were all taught to sit here just like this while the teacher stands up at the front and tells you stuff, and your primary concern is what? What's going to be on the test. Do I need to know this for the test or not? Can I pay attention right now or can I blow this guy off? And I went to the 20th grade, just like all of you did. So you have 2 decades of that being basted into your brain that you're to sit there and pay attention to what that teacher says. That's not an innovation model. That's a what's the test, what's on the test model. And then what happens is one day, you're the teller at the grocery store racing that model, and all of a sudden they cart in these machines where you don't need you anymore. And the person can scan their own crap. And the person who invented that, they changed in the next 5 years, I think it was 500,000 jobs in the US were lost when those scanners came along. So the cheese is moving, that old, I forget who wrote that book, but that Who Moved My Cheese, my uncle, a medical doctor, gave me that book a long time ago. And he was on the right page, I guess. So start asking yourself some questions. Romano stole like half my speech, but the questions are, what's important to you? What do you want out of your life? I mean, I sat down and I was like whatever I was at that time, 30, I'm 40, 35 years old. Like, what even makes me happy? What brings me joy? Who do I like to work with? Scott was talking about that, right? Like, who's your ideal client? What does that look like? See, when I graduated chiropractic school, I said, people, right? Like, I want to work with people. Because I was like, if you have a spine and a pulse, like, you could come into me, right? But that's not really how it works. Like, and what I learned was, despite whatever my intellect says, there seems to be a certain type of person who shows up in my office. Like, I don't get a ton of athletes, for example. I have some, but that's not really who shows up. Like, there's an ideal person that I have in my head, but then there's also who shows up. So, like, think about that a little bit. Like, who's showing up to my office? Why is that? Who's attracted to me naturally, you know? Maybe who do I repel, right? So who's your target demographic? You know, when Nike kicked up, when Nike appeared on the scene, they didn't invent runners. The runners were already there. Nike just created a forum for those guys to plug in. I think this whole thing is about one idea. To create a nice life in this type of practice, here it is. All you need is in your community enough people who think about this thing the way you do, love what you have to say, and want to sign up for the rest of their life. You don't need everybody. You just need enough of them. Right? You're Nike. You just need enough people who want to wear Nikes. There's this kid who calls me every week. He wanted mentorship. So he said, I picked you, and I want to talk every Thursday for the next year. And I was like, oh my God. All right, here we go. Right? So I was doing this talk the other day, and he was telling me about this intellectual orientation he's given and all this crap. And I said, you just need to identify your tribe on an emotional level. And I told him about that story about Nike. I said, you don't believe me? What kind of shoes and sneakers do you wear? He said, Nike. Done. Did Nike ever tell you how intellectually awesome and what they do for your feet? I couldn't tell you anything specific about Nike, but everybody wears Nikes, right? Because they attach to this emotional idea, right? I don't wear Nike. I don't like them. Like I'm not in the, they're not for me and I'm not for them, right? So find your tribe and become an innovator and get rid of this stale, moldy concept of like the chairs in a row that's stuck in your head. So that's point number one. We can do this on time, I'm sure. Number two, the thing I did, and this is really hard. This is easier said than done. And it's, again, sort of ethereal, but make up your mind to do it and then do it. Like who just said, you have to, Mark said, you have to take action. Like make up your mind, but decide what you're making up your mind on, right? So what are you stopping? Am I stopping billing insurance? Am I stopping symptom talk? Am I stopping not giving an orientation? I want to give an orientation, I've never been able to pull it off, I do it for a little while and then I stop. Like stop that, okay? Maybe, and you have to decide what that's going to be for you. Once and for all, decide that you are enough. Chiropractic is enough. You and chiropractic are enough. And then give yourself a timeline. I gave myself a timeline. I was just saying, is it Yvonne? Is that the proper way to say her name? I was just saying, Yvonne, like I set a hard timeline. I said, I'm going to give myself, like they were telling the story of like Mark Olstein and Gene Flynn, like some of these like tough guys. I'm not a tough guy. I'm like not like them. And so I was scared, and I said, I don't know if I can pull that off. That seems brazen to me. Like what if what if you blow up the whole thing? So I didn't want to do that. So I said, I'll give myself a year. 1 year's time. At the end of a year, I want to be, I'm doing orientations, I have a fee system set up, every new person gets this new thing, and all the old people who are in my insurance universe, like you have your decision making. And so what do you think happened when I made up my mind that it was going to take a year? Not 12 months and 1 day, a year. It took 9 months. At the end of 9 months, I was like there already. Like it was done, the dishes were done. By 12 months, I wasn't even thinking about it anymore. So it just goes to show you, like, it's maybe the hardest thing, but the biggest thing is like make up your mind. I want to do this thing, okay? You're good enough. Number 3, I'm going to steal Joe's speech. You have to give an orientation. You have to. Joe's going to stand up here and tell you that it's the most important thing that you do. I would say he's right. Give an orientation. I don't know about that. I do a group orientation. Why do I do a group orientation? Because Joe said do a group orientation. That's as much thought as I put into it. Okay? And some people do the one-on-one orientation. Do the one-on-one. Like do it. Whatever you do it. Right? And I'll give you the truth in full disclosure. Like I don't do it exactly like Joe says it, but I'm working towards that. Like I'm still a work in progress. I'm not fixed yet. Okay? Your orientation, as I mentioned, the person who I speak with once a week, and by the way, like this isn't an ego thing, like that's as much helpful for me as it is for that person, I'm sure. Hopefully he's getting something. Because I make your orientation